Where is it? There was something really interesting about this particular passage, and I found it curious as I was doing the preparation. I was sitting at the kitchen table conversing with my husband and my son, and I turned over to my son and I said, "What do you think about this image for growth?" And he said, "That seems obscene." And it just struck me that it's that the meaning that, through time we have changed the meanings of certain words that no longer relate to its intended meaning originally. In this particular case, we are referring to what Jim talked about, and you may not have heard it, but he said the veil of forgetting. So essentially, we've come from this other dimension into the dimension of matter, and we've forgotten where we came from. That's part of the requirement, that we got here with amnesia. We can't remember, and there's a purpose for not remembering. So part of our work is to kind of, go about trying to figure out, why am I here? Who am I? And so that's why the word group kind of, when it stood out for me. And it's going to come out, and it's important. So keep in mind, we go back to some of the words that I said earlier: precipitation, shine through, grope. Those things are going to come back. What is the veil of forgetting? Is this a little extent in its content? But let's go for it. So Ra, and for those of you, by the way, who have not read the Law of One material, the Law of One Ra material was written kind of in a, how can I say, the questionnaire, sort of an interview. The three individuals that were doing the research comprised of the interviewer, which in the Law of One, it's written out as the questionnaire. I mean, that's how they identify him. And his name was Don Elkins. He was his major was in physics, so he was a scientist, and his approach was very scientific to how he, developed the questions and how he embellished, in wanting to extract and know more and more about the entity Ra that was speaking, and this entity being on a much advanced dimension than we are, was able to provide all this knowledge. So all five of the books are written like you see a question, and then you see the answer, and then you see a question and an answer, and it's difficult to read because sometimes it's not sequential. It kind of jumps around a lot. It's almost here, there, and then he'll come back in the next chapter. So it's not like a chapter, very lineal way. At any rate, here we go. This query is more complex than most. We shall begin. The incarnation pattern of the beginning third density meaning right here where we are, third dimension, mind, body, spirit complex. This is what Ra refers to as this, because we're not just a body, we're not just a mind, we're a mind, body, and spirit composition. So he calls it a mind, body, spirit complex. Begins in darkness. For you may think or consider of your density as of one, as you may say, a sleep or a forgetting. This is the only plane of forgetting. Meaning, after this third density, when we go back, or we have graduated to other planes, we don't have to go to this looking for things in the dark kind of thing. We are able to remember from life to life to life what happened. It is necessary for this third density entity to forget so that the mechanisms of confusion or free will may operate upon the newly individuated consciousness complex. What does that mean? If you know the answers to the test, wouldn't it be easy to pass the test? But if you don't know the answers to the test, you got to study, right? So that's what we're doing. We're on this little blue marble shining, suspended in the middle of, all these planets and universe, and we come to a boot camp. That's really what it is. This is a boot camp. So let's go back to the law of one. As you saw, the first principle in Kybalion was the principle of mentalism, and the law of one is the principle of free will. So they're basically defining the same thing. All is in the mind, and that mind is all, and that mind exercises its will. Free will. So what are we talking when we're talking about free will? What is essentially the concept of free will? We're talking about sovereignty, correct? We're also talking, oh, by the way, it kind of brings some context, brings some understanding to the way that Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. If the all is saying, I am mine, and here I am, do you see how Descartes is kind of utilizing, to a certain extent, that same principle, or the law of mentalism, to extract and come up with this concept? So we're referring to sovereignty. We're referring to an entity who's saying, okay, here I am, and I'm going to make a choice. So when we look in terms of choices, we're talking about two possible states in direct opposition, right? I have the choice to do this, or I have the choice to do that. Well, you might think, well, okay, I have more choices. But essentially, generally black and white speaking, right? You're either on or you're off. You're open, wide open-hearted, or you're kind of close and say, stay away from me, right? Yes, no, happy, sad. Some people might think, okay, well, why did I put happy and sad? Happy and sad are emotions. I have no choice over my emotions. Does that ring a bell to anybody? By the way, I'm happy to have participation. Let's take a look at what happens when you think, okay, I'll just won't go there, or yes, or I won't go into no, I'll stay in maybe, right? Vacillating. Does vacillating do anything for anybody? All right, let's listen to good old wise Joda. Let's try again. Couldn't hear it. So basically, I don't know, is this on? Yeah. So basically, Joda is saying, try not. Do or do not. There is no try. Huh? Did I go back? I don't know how that happened. So, it's either do or do not. There is no try. In the principle of correspondence, we have as above, so below is the general understanding of the principle. And in it, the principle embodies the truth that there is always a correspondence between the laws and the phenomena of life, the phenomena of the various planes of being and life. Grasping of this principle gives one the means of solving many dark paradox and hidden secrets of nature. And so essentially what we're seeing is correspondence, meaning as in the mirror image. We see this in nature. We see this in various structures in Washington. where you have a reflective pond reflecting, Washington Monument and so forth. This is in everywhere. Our founding fathers were well aware of this principle, so they replicated it. They were wanting to embody it within the structure of Washington. Now, I told you earlier, let me see what the next one is, so maybe we can, I told you earlier to remember that word shines, right? Now let's go back for a minute. Does this not look like a shine to you? So is it possible that in selecting, in exercising the energy of free will, the Creator shines through? It's the word that Jim used, shines through. There's a correspondence of shining. When I think of shine, I mean, I can envision myself in the movie theater, and this projector is from above, shining the movie. So there's this holographic idea in front of the screen. So that it's being shown through some kind of object, a vision, what do we call it? A lens. And so suddenly you see the image. So that's what I kind of, in my mind, in my very human and somewhat limited mind, can conceive that the Creator was doing. He was shining itself outwardly and creating this law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. Okay? So are we beginning to see a little bit about how, I'll get to you in a second, how the love or the free will is creating the shine process that kind of is in correlation with the correspondence. So we're beginning to see the two laws saying the same thing, but not in the same words. I see a lot of glazed eyes. All right, contemplation. I'm sorry, David, go ahead.
I like to think of it, the light that's being projected, in the case of the Creator, is a more pure form